Everybody has this. It's not supernatural at all.
When something is coming at you, you learn how to step aside, not get in the way, not get hit, and let it keep going.
It was exciting to find that there was power in simple movements that were relaxed.
It's about conflict and combat. It's not about those things in an aggressive way, but it's about those things in definitely an assertive way.
I thought I knew it when I started, and now it almost never works. And I think that that's just a function of how you change as you train.
The more I get into it, in some respects, it's like the less you seem to understand, because you realize how much deeper it goes.
I've been trying to do this all this time. If I don't try, it works better. Yeah, if I don't try, it works better.
It's part of my life because we live in the dojo. We love it that much.
Aikido is a martial art. It's a self-defense art.
The formal definition has something to do with chi.
Either I or do means way.
I and the ki and the do, and
It's so hard to put a definition on it.
The path of harmonious movement.
I think ki means energy.
It's easy to describe what you do in a technique. It's hard to describe what you're thinking about when you do a technique.
Aikido is everywhere. You can use Aikido in a conversation.
And I don't know what I means.
Or do, whichever one doesn't mean.
No, I know do means way.
The name gives you a clue, the way of harmony, but Aikido is all about momentum.
There's like a quote from O Sensei. I'm gonna get this wrong, but it's like the way to reconcile the world or something like that. You know, maybe.
I find myself asking what is Aikido a lot of often through the years. What is this for? What are we doing this for? What is it for? I mean, I have this story that I can tell what Aikido is for, and then what is it actually that we're doing? And it keeps changing. I think that the thing that top of my mind now is that it's the people, it's the interactions between the people, it's the quality of the interactions that we have with people. It's teaching people how to treat each other through the way we train, the way we teach each other, the art that we train, and the way we treat each other is consonant with the idea in Aikido that through harmonizing with someone else, you can resolve your conflicts in a way, as Marihani Sensei says, that transforms the interaction. So from
both people are transformed.
From conflict, it becomes harmony because of a harmonious coming together of two people.
For me, it's understanding among human beings how to be with each other in a way that is true, real, honest, and in concert with each other. And that can even be in an argument. That's the thing that I love about Aikido. It allows you to learn how to argue, to have a conflict in a way that you do not have to destroy or harm the other person. You can disagree. You can absolutely disagree, but you do not have to dominate or destroy the other person because you disagree.
It is living in harmony, and what that means to me is whatever presents itself in life, that I will have an appropriate response within my frame of reference.
Is it better to use, again, and using an Aikido term, an atemi, and taking the fist into somebody's face to catch their attention and then divert their attention in order to help diffuse a situation?
What's different about Aikido, because it's a more modern martial art, is that O-sensei had studied different martial arts and created Aikido. So it has elements of other martial arts. But I think the intention of it is to take care of your partner. I think in any martial arts, when you're extremely proficient and you're very high ranking, you could do that. But in Aikido, we strive to do that right from the beginning.
To me, what Aikido really is understanding how the other person is moving and moving with them. And by moving with them, affecting a change in what's happening, which is quite different from, just forcing a change. You have to go where they're going, understand where they're going, to then get them to go a different direction.
What I feel a little bit is like it starts in and then it fades away. And like there's a spot where I really, it's gonna be solid. I really want you to feel this. Boom. And then I can come down. So kind of, give me the feeling of the strike. Maybe you don't have to hit me, but make me feel like it's coming in. Yes, boom. Right.
When I went to the dojo, the thing that I thought was really cool was not only that people were being thrown, but they were falling and getting up, right? So these were some pretty dramatic throws and some big rolls and some high falls. And everyone just got back up and they kept training, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. And it was the fact that people were training together and it didn't look like a competition. Self-defense was great, but self-preservation at the same time. This whole, I can fall and get up and not be hurt is really probably the biggest thing that rang a bell to me.
Maybe you're here because you just want to use this as a way to stay in shape because there's a lot of physical activity. Maybe it's just as a social outlet because you get to hang out with people that you like. Maybe you're here because you want to learn how to at least have a better chance, defending yourself if that's necessary. Ton of different reasons to be here. I had trained in karate when I was much younger. Did that for about 8 years, and then life happens. I moved, went to college, and just didn't really find the time for that. A little while after college, I'm just like, I need to do a martial art again. I walked in here and I just had a wow moment. Like, wow, I really need to do this.
I've done a lot of political activism and I practice nonviolence. I'm interested in nonviolence and the possibilities and limits of nonviolence. So in that respect, Aikido as a martial art and kind of way of life, I guess, or something to influence ways of life, resonated with me and I wanted to learn more about it. I wanted to do something that, one, was a physical activity, and two, was something separate from my academic life, which kind of took over when I started grad school.
I was in my late 30s. For a variety of reasons, my doctors had said, you need some other kinds of exercise other than running and hiking and raking leaves. But, I always wanted to try martial arts. And then Matt Fisher was a graduate student in chemistry, and he said, Kathy, come on over to the Aikido dojo, which was the one on Willie Street.
Well, I just know I started Aikido in December of '86. Actually, my sons, when the oldest one was just starting high school and the other one was in the later grades, my wife told me it's time for you to do something with them. And I think the first month I probably spent 3/4 of my time there. It was just, what a turn on. It was the movement, the idea that I didn't have to compete against anybody. It was kind of self-improvement. I could really feel that. And that was really cool. That's how I got started. And it just blossomed from there, big time.
I first started training in Aikido, I was exposed to it in college through a class called Conflict Theory and Aikido. And one day of the week we met in the classroom and read theories of conflict. And 2 other days we met on the mat and sort of learned to use Aikido as a theory of conflict or conflict resolution. I can imagine that being exposed to it in that sort of environment is different from just beginning it somewhere else, because traditionally in Aikido dojos, there's not necessarily a lot of explanation.
Aikido is taught as a feel thing, not as a visual thing or a verbal thing, although we use visual and verbal a lot because that's what we know how to do, but really you learn it as a feel thing. If it was transmitted well by watching, we would have sensei demonstrate, everyone would watch, and everyone would go and do the thing. And we have lots of evidence every day, every class, that that does not really happen.
Well, the other thing I want you to get is, doesn't go to the side, it goes over there. At the same time as you turn your hips, this.
One of the things I've always noticed myself when I start talking about Aikido with other people, I start moving more often, kind of being more expressive with my body when I'm trying to explain what Aikido is, because I guess that is how I think about Aikido. It's a physical exercise. And you talk about technique and how your foot's supposed to go here, foot's supposed to go there, but actually one thing I learned, those words are always just kind of things that are kind of pointing you on things to pay attention to, both in yourself and in the technique that's being demonstrated, but aren't really important in themselves. You have to feel it, you have to look at it, you have to do other things than just trying to parse what it means to lock someone's elbow in this way.
I think when you first come in, or you're new to martial arts, you're new to Aikido, you walk in and you're watching their feet. You're watching gross movement. Like, they move their left foot back, and then they're moving forward with the right hand, and you're just looking at this gross movement, and you're trying to imitate that.
It certainly helps to have some sort of structure. Actually, another thing I think I like about Aikido is, while there is structure, you can manipulate the structure to fit you, in the sense that there's this attack and you have to do something with it. But what you do is dependent on how they attack, how you respond, which is more often than not different every time. So you really have to learn to adjust and adapt, which is not easy all the time.
There is a lot of letting go. There is a lot of just feeling. And again, I would imagine that some of my peers who are more athletes than I call them athletes, they're just more body sense than I am. They can watch something once and get it. I can't do that. It doesn't work for me very well. So I try to analyze it, which doesn't work either. So then it's just, let's go over and over and over and imprint it in the motion so that it's second nature. And then let's build something on top of that. But it's play. It's play. It very much is play.
This throw requires patience. When we started training in Aikido, it was much closer to Japan, much closer to the Japanese style training, which is rote learning. Demonstrate 4 times, get up and do it. As Americans, we're not taught that way anymore. We're used to talking, we're using our words to learn. We can teach this art as Americans, and it was Saotomi Sensei who really made it possible. He said, what gender is Aikido? What nationality is Aikido? It's not Japanese, it's universal. And he freed us to be American Aikidoists and not have to follow a particular cultural way of learning, to follow the art, the heart and soul of it. And so between Saotomi Sensei and Mary Heine was the freedom to be Americans in Aikido, not to try to replicate being Japanese.
Once you have those patterns in your body, then you look for the next layer. And typically that layer is, how does it feel?
So much of martial arts is Masuri, the connection. And make no bones about it, that's true in hard arts as well. When you're sparring, fighting, anything, there's movement, and it's true, it's from afar. But there was something about Aikido where there's actually touch, the attachment seemed more intimate, maybe would be a good word. It got to the point where sometimes when you were doing a technique, some simple little technique where you're connected to the person, it was like, wow, this is special.
Really, I think you get the connection. That's the main thing. The ability to connect with someone, it's something that Sensei John always talks about. Basically, you're connected to your opponent in a way that whenever you move, you're moving them in the same way, and it takes very little effort.
Yeah, like when we talk a lot about Tenkan, which is turning, basically the basic movement of getting out of the way. Simple, like if someone's punching you, you just turn. One way they teach that is you turn and you look and see what they're looking at. So you are seeing in their mind frame.
For me, I try to learn the feeling of what a correct movement is like. I try to remember it and keep that feeling as best I can, and notice when it's not there. If I'm able to develop the sense of what it's like, then I have a better shot, because then I can notice when it's not there.
The more that I do it, the less it becomes about technique and more about maintaining a connection, and those connections may change the shape and form throughout even a quick series of techniques. You know, it just kind of flows and changes based on feeling, whereas in the beginning, Aikido was much more about curriculum of techniques. And sometimes you'll do stuff and you don't realize how you did it or what it was, and you probably couldn't reproduce it. And that, I guess, you know, that's a good thing. Then that really is more closer to Aikido as it was intended.
When you first start learning Aikido, you're carrying all this baggage with you. You get power from tension. Wrong. You get power from being relaxed. And that's really when I started learning how to relax my muscles and extend ki. It's really funny wording, extend ki. It's like you're holding your arm out there, and all you're doing is you're holding your arm out there. Well, if you extend ki, you feel energy flow. I think subconsciously what's happening is you're letting your brain control your muscles, and you're getting your conscious mind out of the way of the tightening and contraction. And you're feeling what's going on, and you're just letting the biomechanics take over.
In a way, it's like a study in applied physics and mechanics. There's leverage, there's torque, centripetal force involved. You try to minimize that, of course, so you can keep your balance. Probably all the simple machines are somewhere in here. Screw, lever. It can be a little bit difficult to see that sometimes, because a lot of times these, levers or screws, spirals, are very, very small. But it starts with some sort of spiral, usually, and from there, it's all about you want to try to get your partner off balance.
In every martial art, and comedy too, it's about right time, right place.
Boom. Here we come around, boom, boom. So think that it's the marriage of his intent and my lead.
So if you move to the correct spot at the correct point in time, you can affect a person's balance, you can affect their energy. If you are really good, you can manipulate it and make what was theirs yours. If you do it right, it feels like you do nothing. And then when you do it wrong, it's like, feels terrible, And we all do it terribly for years and years and years. And even people who are really good are still terrible on occasion because it's not easy.
We're trying to do Kokyu, it just really, it wasn't working at all. And I just sat there and I went like, I cannot do this stuff. I'm so hopeless. And so I didn't even try to do it. Boom, people went down. It's like, wait a minute. I've been trying to do this all this time. If I don't try, it works better. Yeah, if I don't try, it works better.
Your whole body. There was some point I realized I wasn't practicing Aikido, I was doing Aikido.
Yeah, right.
So when I got on the mat, I was doing it in my life. Every movement I did was informed by all my training, every relationship that was in there, in the relationship somehow, which I wasn't necessarily conscious of it right away. Mahani Sensei said something a number of years back to me. She said at some point, Aikido started teaching me. In many ways, she's letting her own exploration inform her. What does the art say? Rather than what do the Japanese say or what do our teachers say? What's here in front of us? Let's explore this thing that's happening between us now, rather than trying to replicate what we'd seen other people do. And then it becomes, your Aikido.
I think the biggest lesson that I have learned, Robin conceptualized it as, if you want to change others, you have to first change yourself. In all sorts of relationships, that seems to be a really important idea. The tendency is always to go in and be like, why don't you sweep the floors more or do the dishes or, but trying to be more harmonious
How do you harmonize with somebody? How do you harmonize in the world? On the mat, I don't think I ever believe anybody's actually trying to harm me, because that's not how we train, but they're still trying to get to me. They're still trying to hit me. They're still trying to take my balance. They still like me to fall down. How do I either fall down safely or keep my balance, stay safe, and keep the other person safe? And then how do I do the same thing, not the physical part, but the same thing in the world? It's such a question. Aikido is not Tenkan, our basic exercise we do on the mat. It's Tenkan in life. How do we do that?
There's all kinds of other confrontations. The boss is yelling, the spouse is yelling, your partner's having a fit, the kids screaming, all the usual stuff that happens in our lives, all those. And that's, to me, where Aikido is really practical.
There's an element of Aikido that we can take into any interaction. The principles of getting out of the way of conflict, of stepping aside, or of entering. Urimi, you can urimi in a conversation, or you can step aside in a conversation and blend. And just being mindful of, where am I in this interaction? Am I blending? Am I entering?
The most important thing about Aikido and human relations is learning how to treat people well, so that you don't end up at the end of a relationship with a domination, but you're together. In arguments, a lot of times I think when people argue, they attack each other. You're a jerk. You are this way, rather than, what is the substance of what's going on between us. Learning to honor the other person while you're intensely disagreeing is a skill in itself. And I think that you can model that when you're training on the mat. You honor the other person when you throw them to the ground, rather than dumping them and just grinding their nose in it. This is trying to destroy the person. You put them down with compassion, and you control them. And if you do it right, they actually go, whoa.
The Aikido training really helped my parenting. It really helped to not have to dominate, and a child expresses themselves. You can more absorb that and understand, where is this coming from? As Jeff Sensei says, if something's coming at you, you don't have to necessarily use force against it. You can absorb a little bit more.
One of my professors, who has since passed away, was a Nidan in our Jim Lee, and he was in the Counseling Psych Department at Schools of Education at the UW. And he brought a lot of Aikido concepts in terms of counseling, psychotherapy, how to use those with conflict resolution and so forth. I find the more that I'm in Aikido, the harder it is sometimes to do that than it is to do the physical, than it is when I am arguing with my 9-year-old. Ironically, right, here's a guy with 30 years martial arts, and like a 9-year-old disarms him. Sometimes it's much more of a challenge off the mat that I'm finding than it is on the mat. And when I started, I thought it was completely, we can take these concepts and you just do like kind of an emotional tenkan, and you're kind of there seeing where they're coming from, and it's not a problem. And I see people who are just masters at it in terms of conflict resolution, and how they can take people and their egos and minimize those, and let them save face. They can feel good about themselves, and so they can find a resolution to the problem.
I work with people with disabilities, and I do a lot of facilitation of large groups of people who may or may not be in agreement with each other, and it's helped me enormously to be able to kind of breathe and let the conflict go a little bit. In a sense, it helps me guide people to have a disagreement in a productive way.
There's also learning to give up your position. You start to do a technique and the other person opposes you, then your first reaction is, oh yeah, I'll show you.
Because that's really effective.
The most powerful thing to do is give up your possession immediately and change to something else that's more appropriate. The secret to the relationship is the other person. Getting them, relating to them. Not you. You're not the secret to the relationship. The other person is.
So uke has to give a realistic attack, and then they have to be prepared to deal with whatever Nage is going to do in a safe way. You can't really learn how to take good ukemi without being thrown. So it's a yin and yang kind of thing.
Ukemi is rolling, falling, following, and helping your partner learn the techniques.
It's taking care of yourself and taking care of your partner.
It's basically doing all you can to emulate what a real attack would be.
Ukemi is the process of receiving the results of your attack. So it includes a lot of the principles of Aikido. You have to be able to blend, move, and be part of the technique with your partners. Someone who's taking good Ukemi is not attacking so much as providing the other person with the setup to do the technique correctly.
It's an art within the art to me. And without good Ukemi, a person giving a good attack, it can hold up your Aikido. Because really, the more I trained, the more I found out that you're only as good as the Ukemi around you.
But Aikido gives you Ukemi, which is the yielding, which is falling away from harm. It is blending with someone as you're losing your balance in order to yield, to make yourself safe. That is an incredible piece of this martial art. Yielding is not losing. And I think it's one of the most true messages in Aikido that I don't know that we get that in many other teachings in our lives. It's about winning, it's about being on top, it's about the bigger salary, it's about the promotion. Aikido is so antithetical to that. It says, sometimes losing is winning. What looks like losing is actually a perfect solution.
Falling doesn't mean losing. Falling means gravity gets you. Falling means you don't have your balance. Falling means you're learning to work with your partner in a different way, which I think is very interesting.
There's a quote by Cleanthes, Stoic Greek philosopher, nothing to do with Aikido at all. I follow joyfully, and did I not wicked and wretched, I must follow still. He who knows how to yield properly to fate is deemed wise among men, for he knows the laws of heaven. Following your partner because if you didn't follow them, if you weren't listening to what was happening to you, if you weren't being receptive to what was happening to you, you would end up being in a much worse place.
That's the safety part that's so wonderful in Aikido, is that there's this unwritten law that when they're grabbing you, they're giving you their energy, they're following you and continuing the attack so you can complete your mission.
What's the difference if you throw someone or fall down? If you're not hurt, you fall down. Doesn't matter. You got back up. You weren't hurt. Who cares? You're the same person you were before you fell down. And to me, those kinds of messages are really what Aikido's about. And it gives you a physical way, actual physical contact with another human being, a pathway that's not intellectual to learn these things. So it becomes incredibly real and spontaneous because you're not thinking it, you're actually breathing it, living it, doing it in that moment.
Still to this day, that to me is the most fun. It's not being the one throwing people around, but it's being an attacker, and then all of a sudden you're being thrown and you're safe.
much more fun to me to be thrown than to fall. And to somebody who really knows how to just take away your balance and your breath, and you know how to land safely somewhere else. I have to do it in my dreams now because I don't roll, and they used to roll nice and smoothly, and it doesn't work that way anymore.
Ukemi is the first thing that Father Time will take away from you. For as long as you're able to, enjoy Ukemi. Don't do kind of a partial attack. I mean, give all of your energy, because there'll be some point where you wake up or you get on the mat and your body tells you, I can't do that. That is a big part of the whole Aikido experience that you lose. So you want to establish those kind of good feelings and memories while your body lets you.
The mat is a lot more, I'm trying to find the right word. The only word that comes to mind right now is civilized. Classes in school, people don't respect each other and they pretty much do whatever they want to, but the mat is really different. You have to be polite. You respect the people who are above you.
The way that it is taught is a very disciplined way, in a way that everyone is going for the same goal almost, yeah. So we're all trying to learn these techniques. We may learn it different ways, but we're all learning it in this same area in an organized fashion.
And you say we're all attacking each other and throwing each other to the ground. It does not sound civilized, but it sort of the way that we do it, it's all gentle and you're caring for each other.
Having trained in many, 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 many dojos, I mean, I think it's well over 100, all around the country, in other countries, all around the world. We wanted the sensation that I know I got when I walked in some places, and I felt like I was welcomed. They were glad you were there. Whatever you brought with you was great. There wasn't a lot of harsh criticism. You weren't, you were supported to make corrections or changes in your, but I felt welcome.
At the seniors, it kind of trickles down. I think we all have that sort of perspective. And it starts with John Robinson, say all the other seniors, Barb. I mean, they're all like that. They're very good at trying to work with your strengths and build up your weaknesses, keep the criticism constructive. Really, we got so many flavors in the dojo, and we got so many different ways of moving, and it's accepted. And that's really nice, because we're not confined then to you have to do it like this. Because the truth is, if you only can do it one way, Aikido doesn't work anymore.
Also, when I started, Robin and John Sensei very, very regularly encouraged us to train with other people, go to other dojos, just go train with other people. And I feel like as a senior student, I'm trying to say that.
They've also, as chief instructors, let their junior instructors be free to teach in the styles that work for them. I don't look or teach like Barbara Jeff. I look or teach like me.
One of the things that we have been conscious about is we haven't wanted to create a dynamic where people are dependent upon us or see us as some sort of guru.
Authority or domination, I think, feel arbitrary. And so John and Robin have earned the respect of the students because they teach and embody a compassionate way of interacting with people.
I mean, they provide instruction for both the martial art and off the mat in ways that are compelling, can be very intense, but at the same time, not micromanaging it. I've never heard them say, you are doing it wrong. I have never heard them say that.
It's a place to learn how to be a better person or something. And it's a place to kind of cultivate that.
The way that John and Robin Sensei have set the tone for that kind of welcoming, warm atmosphere over the years, I think it's wonderful. Not to get choked up, but I have a real fondness in my heart for the people at the dojo.
I'm so grateful for what they've created, and I think that if more people outside of the Aikido community can see how this community is, what a great space they've created. I think wherever we all can learn about great communities, how amazing that is. How can we have peace in the world? And this is just this little microcosm where, not that we don't have strife, everywhere there's strife, but we try. And mostly it works, I think.
In the course of your life, You go through a lot of ups and downs. You have good times and bad. And when you go through your Aikido training, you're going to have good times and bad. And the thing that helps you get through the rough spots are the people around you. This kind of group of people has been there for me at some of my best times and some of my worst times. They're a family more than just a place to train martial arts. And I'd like to think that all dojos have some aspect to that. It really is important to take a look at it as a community. If you're going to take from it, you got to give to it.
It's just a wonderful practice. That's all I can say. And it just becomes a part of your life. You cannot let it go.
It stays with you the rest of your life. And there's been times when I've been out of the dojo, had a baby, right? Well, other things, started a new job. But it stays with you, and it keeps pulling you back in.
I just want to reiterate, it's a world-class dojo. It really is. It's an amazing place, and the people that teach there are amazing people.
Yeah, that's pretty much Aikido.